Hello there, and welcome to the SB Nation MMA / Bloody Elbow Presents hybrid 6-round post-fight show for UFC Fort Lauderdale that just wrapped up from, or what card was it? Somewhere in Florida, right?
Fort Lauderdale, yeah.
Fort Lauderdale, yeah.
North Miami, same shit.
Yeah, it's just north of Miami. But crazy turn of events in the main event. Jack Hermansson, man, he upset Jacaré Souza, and I'm not sure how many people saw that coming. I know I didn't pick Hermansson going in on this. Did you? What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't see it happening either, and it was interesting to see how Hermansson was able to stay in his face and keep launching shots, but also how Jacaré kept taking them. But the output made a difference. I think that he was able to really fluster him. I mean, he took it as good as he gave it. Although I think that by the end, his shots probably didn't have as much pop on them, but they were still getting through. And I think that's really the most important part here. Just over time, he did more damage. He landed more shots. He was more effective when it came to damage on the ground, especially on what I believe was the second or possibly third round. So, yeah, that was wild, man. It's cool to see new blood breaking through, and especially in less than a month doing that, dispatching 2 submission artists and being able to, not just survive, but really even threaten them at certain points with that. So that was great. But man, my hat definitely comes up to him. I really respect what he did right there.
Yeah, it was definitely impressive. Oh, and for those who don't know, I'm Eddie Mercado of BloodyElbow.com, along with Vic
Eddie?
Rodriguez. Yep, It's us, believe it or not. Vic also in Bloody Elbow doing his damn thing. Yeah, Hermansson, man, Jesus, that was insane. Like, he nearly submitted Jacaré. Like, that guillotine choke he had, like, had that been anybody else, dude, they would have tapped out from that.
I don't think it was that close. I'd have to see what the hand positioning was. It didn't seem to me like it was like he had it all the way, but it is possible. Once he turned it around and made it sort of like a modified dragon sleeper, he was pretty much out.
Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah, it was turned into like a scorpion deathlock at that point. But it was nuts, man. And Souza never quit. Like, he was constantly trying to throw back, but it was like the volume striking of Hermansson versus the power punching of Jacaré. And Jacaré, when he finally started to throw some volume, he won the round. He had a really strong third round. He was backing up Hermansson, just really tagging him, and he started to really work the body. And he would go left hook to the body, overhand right to the face, and he just kept doing it over and over. And it started to wear down Hermansson, and but what did it for me was when Hermansson came out in the 4th round, and he was just like, you know what, fuck this. Like, you stole that round from me, you're not getting another one. And just lit Jacaré up with this beautiful just flurry right out of the gate, and just kind of set the tone for the remainder of the fight. And Jacaré just couldn't inflict that he couldn't find that moment. He couldn't wobble Hermansson long enough to really do anything or capitalize on it, and just couldn't cut the octagon off. And
man, I don't remember the last time that anyone suffocated Jacaré with volume to that point, but it did the trick. I mean, it definitely did more than that, obviously.
Yeah, and I think even Hermansson got that late takedown too, which was fucking awesome.
Yeah, so, I mean, they didn't do much with it, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it iced the round. Like, Jacaré had to come up with a knockout, and after and it was hard for me to see Jacaré pulling out a submission from guard when, earlier in the fight he was able to do nada from the guard. Like, Jacaré couldn't do shit off his back. He couldn't even get to his feet. Like, he was basically just holding on and giving up rounds. But man, Hermansson is on a freaking tear, man. That's 3 straight finishes, capped off with a win over the number 4 dude in the world. Like, if that doesn't skyrocket you automatically to the top, I don't know what does. Yeah. Like, obviously the division's a little convoluted.
It's very murky. It's very murky once you get past the top 3, yeah.
So, like, what do you do with Hermansson from here? He was mentioning getting on that was it Stockholm card in October?
Yeah, I don't know who they'd stick him in there against if they were to do that. I mean, it would be nice, but I have no clue who you'd put him in there next. I think you'd probably have to see how this title picture shakes out. Well, then, I mean, even then, that's not really relevant to this. Isn't Weidman fighting soon? Is he scheduled for something?
Chris Weidman got knocked out by Jacaré back in December, or back in November or October, something like that.
Right, but if everyone else is busy, he might be able to slide in. I don't know. I'm not sure what other.
I think Romero needs an opponent, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, that last fight he had fell through.
With Costa.
I guess you could probably do that. Either that or, Gastelum probably would still be busted up by then. He just fought fairly recently. Yeah, I'm not really sure what they do. I mean, the chances are that he'd have to probably skip that one, just be there in attendance and do the little, Lady Di wave or whatever.
I mean, I guess they could, do the winner of Jared Cannonier and Anderson Silva for what that's worth,
Hey, man, listen, they might as well at this point. I mean,
I don't know. It's interesting, though. You got Adesanya and Whitaker at the top. You got Romero up there. Rockhold's going to light heavyweight. Gastelum, like you said, is still banged up from that Adesanya fight. Who knows what Chris Weidman's doing? I guess we should look at that to see if Weidman's even on the billing anywhere, or if he's just kind of still in no man's land. Because that was a really bad loss he took to Jacaré. Like he was
rumored for something, but I don't remember who he was.
I'm not seeing anything on the books on Tapology for him.
Well, Paulo Costa just got cleared due to the retroactive suspension deal, so maybe that'll work. But then I do kind of like the Cannonier Silva winner idea a lot better, so I'd probably go with that. That seems like
it's interesting to see where he goes from here. As far as Souza goes, I mean, it's sad, man. Like he's just alternating these wins and losses, and he's so elite that it's like.
It's a rough game, man. These things happen, and sometimes guys just get figured out. I mean, he might be set up for either the Brunson rematch or bring in Chris Camozzi again.
Well, I mean, I believe Camozzi tried to get that done for this card, right?
No, he wasn't serious. Come on.
Hell yeah, he was serious. You know damn well he would take that.
Oh, stop.
Who wouldn't take that fight? But all credit to Hermansson, man. He did what he had to do, upset the number 4 guy in the world, moves himself up the ladder. Good on him, man. I dig it. I really dig what he's doing. And, like, his energy is just so positive. Like, what's really not to like about this guy?
This is true.
All right, so before that, in the co-main event, polarizing former NFL veteran Greg Hardy picked up his first official UFC win, coming up with the first-round TKO of Dmitry Smolikov. Did I say that right? Smolikov.
Yeah, it's close enough. That's close enough.
Yeah. Man, this fight, man, Smolikov just didn't show up. Honestly, like he shot some really telegraphed takedowns early on that were just really half-hearted
from halfway across the cage. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just kind of folded up and allowed Hardy to like land partially clean uppercuts, like 2 of them, and then he just kind of folded and then accepted being just pounded on from the bottom.
That sounds so wrong. You know what I said this on Twitter. The guy celebrated like he beat Junior Dos Santos. Like, what was that fight? People were complaining about Mike Perry and Alex Oliveira, being sloppy or whatever. But what the hell was that? What the hell was this? Like, and you put it in the co-main event. People paid money for these tickets, man. You're charging me for the privilege of watching this shit on ESPN Plus. And this is what I'm getting as a co-main event. I mean, it's not just the fact that you have someone who, okay, he's bringing in the name, but you have the controversy, all the problems that we've discussed ad nauseum surrounding Greg Hardy. And he puts in stinker after stinker. What did you think was going to happen? And it's just like,
this wasn't a stinker. I don't think this was a stinker.
Really?
Like, this fight was not his fault. Like, he showed up. He did what he was supposed to do. It's Smolikov. He's the guy that didn't show up, that didn't really want to fight out there.
I don't know, man. I think both of them are at fault. Largely Smolikov, obviously. But Hardy's like his whole thing acting like, as if he'd conquered some sort of massive beast. And then on top of that, soaking up the booze and taunting the audience when he knows full. I mean, he has to know. He has to be the most oblivious fucker on the planet if he doesn't understand why people are booing him. Other than,
what is
this idea that he thinks it's here with them.
What is he supposed to do? Just like walk around with his head down all the fucking time? Like,
no, but I mean,
dude doesn't deserve to move on with
whatever. Don't be a dick about it. I mean, this isn't something like, you played for a team we didn't like. You know?
Right.
You beat a woman's ass and you threatened to kill her. I'm sorry, dude. You skated off of that. You got away with it. And you're guilty. And we all know that you're guilty. And the UFC might want you to think otherwise. They might want to sweep it under the rug. but it's still there. And it's just like, it's not going to go away, dude, especially not when you're acting like that. There's no humility, no contrition, nothing. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be too hard on him for winning a UFC fight, his first UFC fight, and being
but let's not act like it's a major accomplishment when this is the guy that he fought and beat. That's what I'm having a problem with right now.
I think it's a major accomplishment that he didn't find a way to lose that fight.
That's not major. Sorry, dude. That is neither major nor an accomplishment when you're a guy like that fighting a guy like Spalletkov. Congratulations. You found a guy whose record on paper numerically looks good, but like you might as well have brought in a dude from Gladiator Challenge.
But truth be told, like
if Spalletkov was going to fight like that, you might as well bring in a dude.
All of his like personal stuff aside, anyone getting a win in the UFC, that's a big deal. Like anyone coming up with a victory in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, that's a big deal.
Disagree, because you know what? If you beat a scrub, you beat a scrub. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you won in the UFC, but congratulations. Being a UFC caliber fighter doesn't mean the same thing it meant 10 years ago. I can't give it to him.
It means more than it means 10 years ago.
I refuse to give him credit. Sorry. Not when they signed this guy, under these circumstances to get him a win. That's just not, no.
I understand the hatred. Like, I get it. I totally get it, and I respect it.
That ain't hatred, my G. It's facts.
I definitely understand. Well, let's move on to a slightly less polarizing figure in Mike Perry, Platinum Mike Perry, who, in front of a home crowd, came up with a tough unanimous decision over Cowboy Alex Oliveira. And, this was pretty much Cowboy starting stronger than he probably should have, having a decent first round and then just starting to peter out the further the fight went along. And Perry actually just getting stronger as the fight went along, and Perry willing to show different facets of the game. And like that ground and pound he was throwing I was shocked. I was surprised. When you think of Perry, you think of someone coming out and just throwing whatever power combinations come to his mind and just like brawling, not a whole lot of like thought process going on, just kind of reacting, real animalistic almost. But like, I thought he fought relatively smart here for considering who we're talking about.
I would absolutely agree. The only thing that I was confused about was with all the split decisions on this card, how that one was unanimous. Because that seemed a lot closer to me than something that would have been like a 30-27 or whatever the scores were.
Really? I felt like Oliveira clearly gave away the last two rounds.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not disputing that Perry should have won. Like, I'm not complaining on that. And it was just a little weird to me, but that's really the only problem I had there.
Round two was when Perry got that top position and started raining down the ground strikes, and I think that clearly won him the round. And then
it might have been. He staggered Oliveira a few times too. So
Oliveira did that. He did that weird thing where it was like the discount Anderson Silva, where he was just like, I'm so gassed and tired right now that I'm just going to back up to the fence and just egg you on and just cover up and let you beat the shit out of me because I just don't want to move right now.
Yeah, it was. He tried to rope a dope him. I'd imagine to tire him out or get him at the same level of tiredness. But Perry's cardio is really good. That's like one of the wrongest of wrong people to do it to.
And he hits really hard.
And yeah, man, those guys gave it. It was a banger, man. That was a hell of a fight. Like, hats off to both of them. But no, Mike Perry definitely earned that. He fought a lot smarter than I thought he would. And Oliveira didn't fight dumb. He did what he could. He tried to pepper those leg kicks in. He tried to attack the body. He managed to stagger Perry a few times and kind of put him in some trouble spots. But none of it really was, you have to remember that this is a guy who's able to fight back. And yeah, man, he totally did the damn thing and he won. And this is probably the biggest feather in his cap that I can think of because of the way that he did so. And again, someone who's got such a reputation for being that tough.
Yeah, and you look at his last three fights. You got a win over Paul Felder. Despite Felder moving up a weight class. Dropping
the broken arm thing too.
Yeah, coming up short against Cowboy Cerrone, and now winning this kind of fight over Cowboy Oliveira. Like those are elite fighters. So it was good for me to hear Perry talk about a desire to make a run at the rankings. It's good to hear more than just like, oh, I just want to fight.
No, he's definitely earned the opportunity. I mean, that's you can't take that away from him. Think what you will. He's earning his way to bigger things. So I say give it to him, man. Give him what he wants in that point, in that respect, and see what he does.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. I just hope they put him against a fun opposition. That's all I want to see him against.
Yeah.
Fun fights. Okay, so before that, we had a crazy the momentum shift in this fight was insane. You had Glover Teixeira overcoming being dropped early with a beautiful spinning back fist by Ion Cutelaba, and Teixeira just pushing forward in the second and coming up with top position, taking the back, and ended up pulling off a rear naked choke, which was pretty freaking cool. I thought that was dope.
I don't know how many of these Glover has left. I don't like seeing him get brutalized like that. And yes, he's coming back. Fine, but I can't help but worry about some of these things that happen to fighters like him that are long in the tooth. And by that same token, it's like they keep throwing these young bucks at him to like have him be the gatekeeper, and he's just fucking these guys up. You're not getting past this gate, man. I'm not going to let you take it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said on Twitter, the scariest goddamn thing about it is he wants you to buck him off. He wants you to exhaust yourself trying to do a hip escape. And that's when he has all the possibilities open. It's like he baited the head and arm choke, and then he just went for everything else. And he seemed like he was going to threaten for an arm bar and just kept fucking him up. I love it. I love every single thing about the finish. I don't like the path that he had to take in round one for that to happen. Now, the way he opened up in round two, where he figured out the timing and he was able to counter correctly and really put Cutelaba on his back foot, that was dope. I worry about the guy's well-being. That's all. But no, that was an amazing fucking fight. We lucked out, man. This was a pretty good card, overall. Even the fights that were decisions had some very thrilling moments in a lot of them. So yeah, we were very fortunate here.
I think some of that was also Cutelaba just really gassing himself out, going for the finish in the first. And just
inexperience and inability to read when you're being drawn in, taking the bait, trying to go in for flurries. These things, they cost you when you're young, and you can either learn from them or you can allow them to consume you. And the kid still has a lot of upside, but Glover just said, "Not today, motherfucker," and that was that.
Yeah, Glover's one of those guys where, like, you got to put him away.
There's not too many guys like him.
And he'll come back and bite you in the ass if you don't get him out of there.
Oh, and yeah.
But even in his post-fight speech, he was like, "Yeah, I'll be around for a little bit. I don't know how many I got left, but I still love it."
Yeah.
And he's like turning into like a Nogueira, where like he'll come out and get rocked and then find a way to come up with a submission. Like he's slowly morphing into a Nogueira.
Oh Jesus!
And like I'm not okay with that.
No, I don't want him feeding carrots to a bus. Who wants that?
Oh man, what would you give this card overall though? Like a 1 to 10? If you had
it, probably an A- overall. I don't know. It was good for a non-pay-per-view card. For a televised bout, the pace was kind of what it was, and it picked up somewhat with the ESPN Plus portion. I still wish that this card had ended an hour or two earlier so I could be in bed, but that's not, look, you take what you can, and this is what it is. But other than that, there was only really one fight that was not, good to me, that like just wasn't exciting, and that was the Roseville Roberts and Griffin fight. But other than that, and Greg, that was just not exciting. And then there's the garbage Greg Hardy portion. But other than that, man, there was a lot of stuff going on here with
garbage
fights that had divisional implications and fighters that needed to stay busy and fighters putting on great performances. So,
let's talk about fighters who are like making runs in their division, like Hermansson. You got Corey Sandhagen, who pulled off a crazy split decision win over John Lineker. I have no idea where I love this fight, dude. How could you scoff at this?
I didn't like the decision. I thought it was bullshit.
Did you?
Yeah, Lineker, all the body shots that added up over time. Come on, man. I felt that his power striking should have accounted for more, or should have been given more credit than the amount of volume. that Sandhagen was throwing his way. I see why the judges went in that decision, but I think they fell for that flim-flamming bullshit and didn't really, like I said, again, like I said on Twitter, Cecil people said ages ago that leg kicks don't win you fights. Well, apparently body shots don't either, because you saw the welts on this dude's midsection. And credit to Sandhagen. He kept coming forward. He kept trying to pop that jab, and he really found a lot of success with it in the third round. But come on, man. I think Lineker really won that fucking fight.
I scored it for Sandhagen. I thought Sandhagen clearly won the first round, and I think he won the second. I think Lineker spent a lot of time whiffing and missing on his punches early in the fight, and it wasn't until the third round that Lineker really started to go hard to the body and really start connecting with and throwing more volume.
Well, he dug in harder to with those shots in the third, but I mean, I don't know.
And then he had that near submission there at the end of the fight, which is sick.
Yeah, but how much credit do you really give that? How much should the judges really reward that?
Are you high? Dude, that is the closest that fight came to being stopped. What are you talking about?
I don't think his hand position, I don't think he was really squeezed on the neck.
He had blood squirting from his face. Like, you're tripping, dude. That was like Rick's story.
And you think that was exclusively because of that and not because he was getting popped in the nose?
I think that's how tight the submission was.
No, had it been that tight, he would have probably either gone to sleep or had submitted on him.
Lineker went all in on that, man. I think he dumped his tank on that guillotine going for it.
Yeah, he seemed like he did, because his arm started to sort of relax after the spurt of blood. Obviously, not that he saw the spurt of blood. I mean, like, you can tell that he was starting to fade there as well. He's burning his arms out.
But I was okay with the decision, and Zane and I speak on this a lot. Just how, like, the bantamweight division is just full of so much talent, where you got so many guys who are so complete that you can take someone who is completely unranked and pit them against someone in the top 10, top 5, and like it's almost 50-50. Like, that's how
in a lot of cases you're right. Yeah,
that's how much talent is floating around at 135 right now, and like, it's great. So, like, I love that Sandhagen's up there. Like, he just beat the number 8 guy in the world, and so going from unranked to that, like, that's a big fucking deal. And not only that, like, look at what Sandhagen's been doing up until this point. Like, he's been catching bodies left and right, and quietly. Yeah. Like, he's not making a lot of noise. And I think what bothered me the most was, like, he got booed. Like, he went to war with Lineker. Like, this was a fucking war.
Yeah, but again, it's the displeasure with the decision that did it. That's what I think people were booing. It wasn't so much like his performance, because he put it out there. He deserves credit for what he did.
The crowd is more like whoever wins the third. Like, if you go hard in the third and lose the first 2 rounds, the crowd's going to be like, oh, the guy who we most recently saw kicking ass is the guy that won the fight.
Well, I don't know, man. Look, I'm happy for Sandhagen. I've been seeing him fight since the LFA days. I'm really happy to see him progress and just quietly, like you said, just start racking up bodies like you would have done that. And even his debut, which I've actually seen, was the Austin Arnett fight. I had forgotten about the Austin Arnett fight. That was vicious.
Body shot.
Great shit. But to do that to Lineker, to hang tough with him, come on, man. You got to give him his respect. I'm not knocking that. The kid is talented, and he's got a very bright future ahead of him. I personally just disagreed with the decision, but that's just that.
Fair enough. It was definitely super close, though. So I'm okay.
Yeah. I'm not too upset because of the fact that, I mean, it's not. I'm not screaming robbery or anything like that.
Right. All right. So before that, opening up the main card, we had Roseville Roberts picking up a pretty dominant decision victory over Thomas Gifford. This was in the lightweight division, and Roberts, man, I think he showed off some pretty fast hands. I think he's got a lot of boxing experience in his background, and it's almost as if his punches come out of nowhere. Like, they're so deceptively fast that they were just cleanly tagging Gifford, and Gifford just has such a strong beard on him that he was just eating them. And Roberts was really willing to grapple here also, and like, he owned top position throughout, but Gifford was just too content to play guard, and Roberts was just content to get some much-needed time in the cage, much-needed rounds, because he's a guy who's been finishing guys, pretty quickly. So it was good for him to get that kind of time in the cage, and it was good for him to, thrive in all facets of the game, whether it was the grappling, whether it was the stand-up, So solid win all around, but, it doesn't really do much to catapult him or build some more hype around him. But just a pretty, like you said, this was for you one of the more boring fights on the card.
Yeah, and look, boring doesn't mean that these guys are bad fighters. I don't really have that much to say about this other than Roberts showed off a few wrinkles in his game defensively and sort of being able to stay with the keeping top position, and that was fine. And Gifford, unfortunately, when you're too content to play guard, when you keep trying to do more submitting off your back than actually springing up and doing something there or striking off your back, it's going to cost you when it goes to the judges. You might not think it's going to the judges, but you never know, and that's just what it is. So these are just two young guys getting some experience, and it is what it is.
Yeah, a little bit of a bummer that they kicked the card off with this fight because it just.
Yeah, but look, every single fight is a roll of the dice. You could have two super exciting guys coming in red hot, and they put on a stinker. We've seen this happen many times. So, it's unfortunate, but it's not either guy's fault. They're not trying to be boring, obviously.
Right. It just makes me appreciate the Justin Gaethjes way more. All right. So, closing out the ESPN portion of the prelims, we had Takashi Sato defeating Bloody Elbows, longtime faithful Ben Saunders by TKO at 1 minute, 18 seconds of round 2. This was tough, man. Saunders was doing so well. Like his round 1 was phenomenal. Like he was really just doing his thing. He was letting go his knees in the clinch and rocked Sato with that short hook. And he was just really firing with the phase shifting. Like, he was floating from kick range into punching range and then into the clinch where his knees were waiting. And then come round 2, man, Sato found that little slick 1-2 that just completely changed the trajectory of the fight. Dropped Saunders, finished with some mean, nasty ground and pound. Tough break for Saunders, who I'm a gigantic fan of. But, excellent debut for Sato here. Good for him.
Yeah, Sato had been putting guys away in pancreas for a while, but what I was thinking was that maybe Saunders would do kind of like what he did, use his range, what he did in round 1, and then eventually move on to just brutalize Sato in the clinch and just attack the body, wear him down. But I was very surprised with how Sato was able to slap that high guard away and then sneak that one shot through and crumple him. Man, I feel terrible for Ben, man. Bloody Elbow, we love the guy. We're still with you, Ben. We love you to death. But it's a tough one, man. It's the name of the game. It's fighting, and we all know what these guys sign up for. But good for Sato. It's an impressive debut, and who knows what he could do. There's not that many Japanese welterweights that have been doing, big things in larger organizations. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, tough break for Saunders, man. He is 1-5 in his last 6 and has been finished in each 5 of those losses. That's a real tough break for him. So curious to see where he'll land next, but hopefully it's on his feet. All right, so before that, we had, I would say, a real sticky, kind of weird heavyweight split decision with Augusto Sakai picking up the nod over Andrei Arlovski. I kind of had it going the other way. I thought Arlovski was the one landing more volume, consistently, and Sakai was just so much of a solo striker aside from one moment where he had one blitz. He was pretty much just throwing solo strikes out there. So I'm kind of curious how they gave the fight to Sakai. Again, it's not a robbery. It's not the fight wasn't, I didn't care enough about it to I don't know. What do you think of this fight? Do you care about this at all for any reason?
Yeah, I care that it was the Florida Commission fucking up again. I thought that was a bullshit decision. I'm with you that Arlovski should have won that fight. Again, I'm not screaming robbery, but it's dude, it's pretty clear that this guy is landing more and landing somewhat harder in most of these exchanges. And just because the other guy's brushing it off some doesn't mean that those shots, you can hear them. You can see that they're wobbling the guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea what the hell happened there. Tough break for Andre, but hopefully the brass in situations like this recognize that the right guy should be facing more advanced opposition, and the guy who won on paper probably might want to slow down on rushing him in any manner really that would be of any significance.
Yeah. So you know what? Fuck this fight. don't watch it ever if you don't have to. But I will note this. So June, one of our lovely Bloody Elbow SB Nation angels behind the scenes, just
The real champion, June Williams.
Yep, where she just told me that performance of the night went to Jim Miller and Glover Teixeira. They're each getting $50K, and then fight of the night went to Cowboy Oliveira and Mike Perry. So they're all getting $50K.
Okay,
I'm okay with that. I think that's.
I mean, it's all right. I wish more guys got bonuses, but I mean, that's not the world we live in.
I wish more guys got more money for sure.
Yeah, wish in one hand and shit in the other, really.
But anytime Jim Miller's walking away with an extra 50 G's, this guy's happy. That's for damn sure. All right, so moving on. Before that, we had the UFC's initial women's strawweight champion, Carla Esparza, picking up a unanimous decision over Virna Jandiroba, if I said that right. And this fight was really competitive, like super competitive, real back and forth. It was a real high on grappling, a lot of jockeying for position, really competitive, but really low on damage also, which I fucking hate. Like not a lot of strikes being landed, not a lot of like near submissions. It was just, it was predominantly a wrestling match, but it was still pretty competitive, and it kept me, entertained. I'll say at least. But yeah, you got any takeaways from this matchup?
No, I mean, it was a fun grappling match for the greater part. I mean, Jandiroba was still bold, still trying to work her way from bottom, very mindful of where her legs were. Trying to either use butterfly hooks or like use some kind of modified X guard.
That deep half was slick that she was going for. I really
and I didn't think she was going to pull it off, but she kind of did, and then got the fight back up. But I think more than that, her cardio was tested more so than Esparza's, who also started to tire out a bit. But Esparza, I had a little thing with a little back and forth with Schwan Humes on Twitter. He's like, well, her, Esparza's wrestling isn't that great. Well, it doesn't have to be. Like, it just needs to be well adapted for MMA. You need to integrate the strikes and cut corners and be able to, not just take down your opponent, but really know how to keep them there. Be smart enough to avoid submissions. See what the other person is going to do. Cut off their escape routes and mix in your strikes. And that's what Esparza did, and she won. I don't see where anyone would have any disagreement with that. I mean, I thought it was an impressive performance. It wasn't the most violent performance, but this is what it is in the sport. I don't think it was boring in any way. I think there was a lot of back and forth because it's the little things that mattered, and they really made sure that they were on their P's and Q's. So there was a lot of really cool scrambly stuff going on, and even the stuff that was a little more static was interesting to watch as well, at least to me.
Where do you think Esparza goes from here?
That's a good question, because she is, I'm going to look back in the happy rankings here. She is ranked at...
She's number 9.
Number 9. Yeah, I'm not sure who she fights now. I mean, Michelle Watterson won recently, but she's probably going to get someone who's higher ranked. Maybe Weili Zhang, unless she's booked for something else, or maybe Claudia Gadelha again. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that at that point, like, anyone past number 6 is probably jockeying for position with someone else who's higher ranked. So if anything, I'm not sure. She's probably going to fight someone who's also in the back of the pack, maybe like maybe Cynthia Calvillo or something like that. I don't know. Maybe Randa Marcos, who fought not that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, a rematch in Calvillo, that's an option.
That is on the table. Yeah.
Rematch in Marcos, that's also an option. That was a split decision. She actually dropped the first time they fought. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. Who knows? But yeah, Esparza is not exactly known for her violence. We'll say that. All right, so before that, we had a pretty fucking awesome fight, I gotta say. Gilbert Burns came up with a second-round rear naked choke of Mike Davis, which started out pretty fucking cool. They just were willing to stand in front of each other and just try to go for the knockout, and each guy was kind of hurting the other man. And then, Burns obviously ended up going to the takedown, going to his grappling. And then round 2, geez Louise, Burns just went ham with his grappling. He comes out, he gets the takedown, takes the back, lost it, but got it right back, found the rear naked choke. And man, I just really love watching Gilbert Burns fight. I really do, man.
Me too, man. Me too. And the weirdest thing is that he was hanging on to the back, and he seemed a little frustrated. Like he couldn't get anything off. He didn't seem to be finding the success that he thought positionally, other than being able to trap Davis with his legs, but with his hand positions. He seemed like he was getting a little flustered, but he persevered. And Dominic Cruz pointed out brilliantly, getting the elbow under the chin, getting the arm complete on the chin, getting the elbow specifically. That shit is in deep. And pressing in with his own chin, using all of his body weight, expanding his chest, pulling with his legs. I mean, he just bridged it. And that was just, oh, man, perfect ending. He had a fight that was like very exciting, very toe-to-toe, and then it kind of stalled for a little bit with Burns ahead, and then he pulls out the submission. You're like, that's what I thought was going to happen. I just, just had to wait it out. And Burns is... he's one of the true nice guys of the sport, from all things that we've been able to observe, and it's good to see him succeed. And he's a threat. The dude is a problem in an already packed lightweight division. So I'm really interested to see what they do with him next. I just have no idea who he would take on at this point. Do you think it's time that he take on a ranked opponent, or do you think maybe that'll be too soon for him just yet?
I mean, sure. Like, why not? It doesn't matter for me. I think he's really coming into his own. Of course, his grappling is what he's known for, but he's really been falling in love with his hands. And, that's extra awesome for me, because it's like at any moment he can almost get knocked out. But on the same token, he might knock someone out at the same time. So that's a real fun thing for me to watch.
Yeah, you sleep on his striking, you get slept.
Yeah, exactly. So, who knows where he goes from here. I'm okay with him continuously moving towards the rankings. Lightweight's a real tough division.
Very.
No, it really is the Shark Tank, but I don't know. He could fight Islam Makhachev. That's cool with me.
I guess.
That would be great. Both grapplers and both guys who aren't exactly the most polished on the feet, but are willing to throw. We'll say that.
That's very kind of you, yes.
All right. So before that, we had, which was my personal favorite moment of the entire card, Jim Miller coming up with a very quick 2-minute and 12-second submission of Jason Gonzalez. Man, I'm a big, gigantic, huge Jim Miller fan for every single reason under the sun, from how humble he is to how he'll fight anybody, to him overcoming Lyme disease, to him being a family man. I mean, never talking shit, just what's not to love about Jim Miller? Fucking love the dude, right? And he did exactly what he came to do. He even brought his kids out there, which is always sketchy. And it worked out for him. This is his 19th UFC win, which is 5th all time. And that is ridiculous. Like, that is absolutely insane. This dude's a future Hall of Famer. Like, there's no doubt in my mind.
Even though he never held a belt, like, you gotta consider him at least.
He's the people's champion as far as I'm concerned.
About that.
32 UFC fights. That's insane.
Yeah, that shit ain't right.
He needs to win like the Lifetime Achievement Award or like the Iron Man Award. Like, they need to come up with something. He needs to win some sort of award for his longevity in a sport in a lighter division that's brutal on the body. Like, he's just an anomaly. Like, who's tougher than Jim Miller?
I can't think of anybody. No.
Very few. You're talking about $2 steaks at this point.
Other than Artem Lobov, nobody.
Yeah, Darren Elkins.
All right, fine. I'll let you skate on that. That's fine.
But yeah, man, what's not to like about Jim Miller? Honestly, I wonder how long he's going to be around, man. He's
hopefully not very long. I mean, he can do it until he wants, because he hasn't taken as much damage, especially as of late. Like, he's been, he's been winning more than he's been losing. But
no, I mean, he's lost. He's only 2-5 in his last 7.
Okay, but that's, how do I put it? He's not getting knocked out super violently like some of these other dudes.
No. He's like losing a majority decision to Dustin Poirier, losing a decision to Anthony Pettis, decision to Trinaldo. He got knocked out by Dan Hooker, no shame there, and choked out by Chucky Olives, no shame there.
No shame there, no.
What would be awesome for me, man, is if like Khabib is like booked against Tony Ferguson, and then something happens to where like Ferguson's out and like they need someone to step in and Jim Miller steps in and gets his title shot. Like, that would be so cool for me, man.
I
Even
don't.
cooler
I
for
mean,
him, but I would love
it's
to see it.
so it's so unlikely, but I would love it. I'm not
Man.
gonna lie. It's so like it's cheesy because you know it's not gonna happen.
You know how much I would love it?
Hmm.
Have you seen Endgame yet?
No,
Then
don't
never mind.
spoil it.
No, I'm not saying shit. Not moving on. Moving on. Go watch Jim Miller's fights, all of them.
There you go.
All right. So before that, we had a pretty interesting back and forth bout between. It wasn't really back and forth per se, kind of back and forth. I would say an interesting clash of striking styles. Angela Hill picked up a unanimous decision over Jodie Esquibel. And
Squibble? You just called her Squibble.
Esquibel? How do you say it?
Esquibel, man. Did you?
Esquibel sounds better to me.
Stop.
All right. So Angela, let's see. She pretty much was fighting long, fighting off her back foot, doing what she had to do to stay away from the power of Esquibel. She and it was like pocket punching versus darting in and out kind of long striking. And it worked out in Hill's favor, you know. The pressure just wasn't enough to not get sniped by Hill as she tried to close the distance. So one of the best performances Hill's put up, I think. I think she looked pretty damn good out there.
I mean, Esquibel was really she kept coming forward, and like you got to give her respect for that. But it's not just a matter of like, okay, well, props to her for taking all this damage. It's like, no, she was able to bite down and actually land some really, really good shots. And I mean, in the second round especially, she seemed to have had a surprising amount of success. But I felt she was really getting tagged in the first round. I'm like, well, that's a deficit that she's not going to be able to work her way out of. Like, no, I was wrong. And I was pleasantly surprised. I was glad I was wrong. We got to see a lot of grit and determination out of both of them. And yeah, it just is what it is, man. I mean, Angela Hill was definitely the more polished striker of the two. She had many more advantages and more layers to her striking. It just seemed like Esquibel was able to figure out some of them, and she fought smarter than perhaps a lot of us thought she would.
Yeah, a pretty decent fight, and I think that you said it. You labeled it best. She fought smart. You know, she fought smart. Like I think previous versions of Angela Hill would have been more inclined to just stand there, bite down on the mouthpiece, and just trade in the pocket instead of committing to the in and out footwork and fighting long. So I think that was really good to see from her. Man, so before that, someone who I'm still shocked is in the UFC, Diego Lima, picked up a split decision over Court McGee. Pretty close fight. McGee had his like one moment at like the very end of the fight. He knocked Lima down in like the last 10 seconds. But, you know, this was pretty much just Lima's fight. You know, he really got that lead check hook going, and his takedown defense was pretty much on point, and his movement really looked better than I've seen in the past from him. So aside from that knockdown in the final 10 seconds, you know, this was pretty much just Lima's fight.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all that he had done so well. I was a little surprised he got dropped in the end.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's what it is, man. You know, McGee's a little more foot slow, and his reactions and his defense are, you know, can be exploited. And that's what Lima did. And, you know, he did that against a really, really tough guy that's going to be super tough to stop for anybody. So good on him for doing it, and tough break for Court McGee, who's, again, another really nice guy who's been through a bunch of shit. But, you know, again, that's a fight game. This is what they do, and they know that these are the risks coming in. So, yeah.
Craziest part is Lima's on a 2-fight winning streak right now.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I guess that legit blows me away. That's never happened for him at this level.
No, not yet. But there you go.
Because he had a UFC run back in 2014. I don't know if people remember that, but when he was coming off Tough 19, he went 1-3 before getting on Tough 25. Which who's been on more toughs than this guy?
Roxanne Modafferi was on 2 of them.
Okay,
and that was the second comeback season. So there was a group of guys that were brought in.
Okay,
from that.
Yeah, you probably knew way more about the Tough series than I do. I think I quit watching after season 3.
All right.
But yeah, man, good for Lima, man. He's always fun on the microphone afterwards, like such a humble dude. And I was a little bummed he got snubbed from the post-fight win bonus, or his fight of the night bonus in his last matchup when he knocked out Chad Laprise. He should have got that bonus.
Yeah.
But whatever. All right, let's go back to the top of the card. Crazy upset. Jack Hermansson edging out Ronaldo. Not even edging out. He won 4-1, 4 rounds to 1, I think. Hermansson did over Souza. Do you have, Brian likes to do what the fucks at the moments. Do you have a WTF of the moment? Something that just stuck out that was like, man, what the fuck is this shit? Outside of Greg Hardy just being here all together.
I thought I saw Art Davies sitting in the front row.
Really?
That was weird. I don't know how what the fuck how much that qualifies, how much meat is on that bone. Other than that tweak in Oliveira's leg, where between rounds they came back and Anik said something about like it's a little graphic, we're not going to show it to you. But they popped that sucker back in. I'm like,
yeah, it was a dislocated toe, I believe.
Yeah, which is wild because like, well, I don't know. I watched a bunch of fights in my time, and we were all too happy to replay the shit out of Anderson Silva's leg getting snapped like a twig, but this was apparently too gruesome. Okay, sure. Whatever.
Which is probably code for, oh, hey, we didn't catch it. You know what I mean? We don't have a replay of that.
They trust me. They keep that. I mean, the cameras still roll. It's just a matter of whether or not production chooses to air that stuff or not on their own.
Well, real quick, Vic, for going along with the whole Endgame spoiler free, we're not going to mention anything about the Bellator event that happened tonight. So don't worry. This will be spoiler free. If you haven't seen the fight yet, neither have I. Neither has Vic because we were watching this card. So you won't be getting any of that here.
We should have announced that at the outset, right? Because, I mean, we spent the whole night watching this and not Bellator, so they should kind of know.
Well, just in case you're coming here for any kind of Bellator results, we're not going to spoil that for you.
Should have said that when we started.
Well, just so between the deuce of us, we're not gonna ruin it for our fans.
Okay, sure, yeah, why not? I mean, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, what the fuck for me? I guess the Sakai victory over Arlovski, that decision was pretty kind of what the fuck to me. I didn't get it, but I don't know. This kind of seemed like just a real journeyman kind of card. Like it wasn't
for most of the fighters, maybe, but
it just wasn't. It wasn't that great of a card. Like it had some cool moments, like the Jim Miller followed by Gilbert Burns. Like that was great for me. That was a nice block of time, but yeah, just not a lot of wow moments.
I think a lot of what happened on this card also was more like, okay, we're not sure what to do with these guys, but hey, let's do this. And they sort of looked out and were able to make compelling matchups as, I don't know, man.
And I think
I'm not complaining. I mean, it was fine. I just,
nobody,
when it was announced, it just didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. But like, this is actually pretty decent. It turned out to be a good card.
No one got knocked the fuck out though.
Well, I mean, again, you're always rolling the dice, man. You're not always going to get, it's not Christmas every day. You're not always going to get champagne until what you want.
Yeah. Well, because of that, this is like a middle of the road card for me. And I'm going to forget it the second the show's over. I'm going to forget this outside of like,
tough customer. Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
okay. All right.
Yeah. I feel like I'm missing something from this card. Mm-hmm. Like I'm still waiting for the main event to happen. That's kind of like the feeling I get. Like it's missing that kind of.
I think it was just the sort of lack of major star power, maybe, that you're lamenting. But again, it's not a pay-per-view, so like this is what you're gonna get.
What are you talking about? This is ESPN Plus, man.
You know what, man? Fuck you. You got anything else? What's up? What else are we doing?
No, I think that's pretty much it, man. I think we can wrap this bad boy up here. Okay. So yeah, find me on Twitter at the Eddie Mercado. Find Vic on Twitter at Vic M Rodriguez. You can find us both on bloodyelbow.com in our various capacities, doing whatever we do. You can catch us here at this will actually be on SBN MMA. So give us a like, give us a share, subscribe, comment. And you can also catch us over at Bloody Elbow Presents, our auxiliary channel for various content from our Level Change podcast to Pull No Punches and Care Don't Care, If I Did It, the Vivisection, of course, the 6th round. and all that jazz. So in the meantime, if you're looking for all that stuff outside of the YouTube realm, you can check out just about every single podcast provider, and we'll be there under MMA Nation, I believe. So yeah, Flyin Brian will be back next week. He's out of town. Zane Simon will also be back. He's also out of town. Are they out of town together? I don't know. Did they go?
Yeah, they're going to take down Kim Jong-un.
Either that, or they both went back to Remulac to Norfolk the Garthok together, which is my bet. But until then, stay tuned. Share this, comment on this, like this, love us, read Bloody Elbow. And I guess you should probably all go be a good person now.